So hi guys, how are we all doing today? Welcome once again. I am going to try not to cry while doing this video. Seriously, I am going to try. So I finished watching To Kill a Monkey. Kemi Adetiba, thank you. Kemi is, I think if you want to really value, if you want to know your acting prowess, I think Kemi Adetiba is that person that will actually do that for you. And I saw so many reviews online yesterday, especially those who were talking about Evie. Bucci Franklin. Oh, Bucci Franklin is not to be trifled with. You see, Bucci Franklin, do not trifle with Bucci Franklin. That film got me, man. That film got me. But there's so many layers to, the movie. There's so many layers. But the first person I'm going to talk about will be Efe, because I think Efe rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, myself included. But not in the sense of, reproach. I think my grouse with Efe Mini, was the fact that Efe didn't learn to be street smart. That was the problem Efe had. If you notice from the beginning of that series to the end, Efe committed the same faults over and over and over again. And what was that fault? Efe never negotiated properly. You see, the street language is different. Efe always forgot how to negotiate, to hold those who were supposed to do something for him to ransom. He never learned to do that, starting from where he was working. And I think that's the purpose. And I think that's why Kemi made us look at, the beginning, It was the same thing. He fell into the same trap over and over again. When he met Oboz, Oboz, I'm going to listen. There's so many things. There are so many layers to that film. But I will say this: Efe did not learn how to be street smart. You see, I always say it's one thing to be book smart. Street smart is survival, because book smart can only do so much for you. But when you're able to do street smart and then join book smart, you got it all together. And so Efe kept making the same mistakes and over and over and over again. And now, while I understood, because at the beginning I felt sympathetic for him, being that he was trying to get Oboz to be on the down low, so that they would be able to do their work properly. But Oboz was just Oboz. Oboz was Oboz, and you could not take away from Oboz what Oboz was. That's just what he was. And when that betrayal, Oboz knew at that point that he was going to be betrayed. And I told myself, I said, if I were Efe at that point, all bets were off. I stand with my friend. And if we had to go down together, we go down together. That was what I would have done. For the fact that Oboz was ready to take a bullet for me, I would have been willing to go down with him. But Efe was such a coward. The worst of the bunch, I don't think Evie was, for me, I don't think Evie was the person. The worst of the whole bunch was his wife, Nosa. If you marry that kind of wife, you are worse. Just count yourself a finished man, finished person. Are you serious? If you marry that kind of woman, you are finished. Nosa was what we call long throat, atenuje. Nosa had no bearing. All she just wanted, she was enjoying the comfort. If she enjoyed the comfort, she enjoyed all this thing until she felt that her life was in danger, her children's life were in danger. Kiniko. The audacity she had to actually wear clothes, dress fine, come to prison and collect offshore accounts. Again, like I said, Efe was the one that was not learning. Efe wasn't learning anything. Efe was not learning anything aside from what he knew in the books. This movie reminds me, it also reminds me a little bit, and there's a movie I'm trying to remember. I hope I'll be able to recall before this video ends. That said, if you've watched a lot of, crime movies, if we're talking from Blow and American Gangster, if you've watched any of those movies, the MO is pretty the same. You got guys who really know what to do and how to get this money, and they've already conditioned and disciplined themselves to be that way. Nobody will have to know. Nobody will tie me to the things to the real thing I do, to this persona. And so they opt for living on the down low, covering their tracks. If you've watched American Gangster, you will understand what I mean. And so it only takes loud people to, it only takes people who are loud to destroy everything that they've been working for over the years, you see? And that's just usually the MO. And so Obos was that friend. Obos was, he said it from the beginning, he said trust. Obos was that guy. I see, tears fell out of my eyes. Ozzy, I think Ozzy was the one who clocked Efe from the bat. And I think Ozzy just felt, and he knew somehow along the way that Efe was doing what he was doing simply because he was hard up for cash. That Efe had not been through he hadn't been through the ringer to earn the level of trust, that Obos was going to give him. I think the only problem Ozzy had, the only thing Ozzy could offer was loyalty. That was all Ozzy could offer. But after that, was there any value that Ozzy was bringing into the organization per se? No, but all he had was, he had Obos's back. And that was just all he would offer. If you asked me which was greater, that trust was greater than any other thing Efe could have brought to the table. Yes, Efe made so much money for them, but Ozzy was the real deal. Ozzy was the package. Then we talk about Teacher, played by Chidimokeme. Again, you see, like I said, Kemi Adetiba did her research on this movie. Now, when, fraud was a big thing in Nigeria at the time, we had people like Teacher, who started the game, and usually they hired boys, right? And these boys were the ones who went around doing all the petty work, and they were the ones who collected the money. Now, the rule of the game was that because he's the chairman, right? The money, he gets the bulk of the money, and he gives the boys like whatever it is. And that thing was, played was actually the thing. Now the problem with Teacher had was that Obos was his boy, and so Obos found his own footing. And not just did Obos find his own footing, Obos now overperformed him. So Teacher felt threatened. My position, that his position was gone. That was the problem Teacher was having. He was in this situation that he saw his position. He was no longer to be considered, he wasn't chairman anymore. Basically, that's just a point blank period. He wasn't chairman anymore. And so what did Teacher do? Of course, Chidimokeme is the perfect villain for any story you want to bring to life. I'm telling you, you want to contest it, you can. But that dude plays the villain like he was born into it, And so what did he do, right? He decides that he drew first blood. That's just what it is. It was Teacher who started the whole of this. He drew first blood, And it says it's, and again, he ended up how he was supposed to end up, because greed is not a good look, right? No matter how you want to look at it, greed is not a good look on anyone. Then if we also talk about Ivie, I saw, I actually did state at the beginning, I saw a lot of reviews about Ivie's character, blah, 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 and how she turned on her father. And I think that part of the movie, really, broke my heart. Because again, I saw Efe stood alone. His wife was against him. His daughter was against him. everybody around him was against him. And the question I asked was, why? What did this man do wrong other than trying to take care of his family? What did he do wrong? You know, Nosa, whoever, see, if you bring Nosa, if you find a woman like Nosa Rono, that thing, it's not a good look at all. It's when you look at the whole thing, because everything was everywhere she was coming from. She was so judgy. She never bothered to ever understand anything. And the thing about it was that she was also having a field day, eating money, living the luxury life, right? There is no way, no harm. I'm going to do this review without talking about teacher or Chidimokeme. There's no way, you know. My beautiful darling Bini sister, Lillian Afegbai. Now, Lillian is the perfect, she's what we call her, the perfect mob wife, the perfect, she's the perfect wife of a criminal, right? If you go to the stories of what's his name? The guy who was the Colombian kingpin, drug lord, Escobar. If you go through all the, stories, and if you go through all the, documentaries about them, even the American Gangster, all of them had extremely loyal wives, even when the wives knew they were cheating on them. Okay? She knew what she was supposed to be doing. And for her, it was more important for her that the money kept coming in, but she had the man's back. You see, the thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand. Most times, mob wives are the people that were there from the jump. If you remember as well, Power, same thing. Mob wives were there from the jump when the guy had nothing. So they understood and they knew their role. They knew what they were supposed to do, right? Their loyalty could never be questioned. The loyalty they had for those men could and can never be questioned. So mob wives Lillian Afebai played it well, and she loved Oboz to madness. She knew how to calm him down. She knew how to talk to him. She knew when it was, okay to be in his, she had it all down to the T, right? And so she really did carry, and again, she's a Benin girl. So she played that role perfectly, and I feel like, again, my heart broke. My heart broke at Oboz's demise. My heart broke. And I could not believe it, because it was obvious. Like, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. This is one of those movies where you're asking yourself, so the villain is not, it's just that the villain is just somebody who's lovable, because loyalty trumps everything, right? And yeah, that's it for me though. So yeah, that's my take on all of that, right? Talk to you guys. Hey, Kemi Adetiba, you are a babe. And by extension, because I don't want to talk too much, but you see, Kemi is like a sister. So please, you people should only say nice things about her, because she has army. She has army somewhere. Yes. But this movie, amazing, great movie. I loved it. I love every bit of it, from the first to the last. I loved it. Bimbo Akintola, you remain who you are. You remain, you're a class act. As in, listen, no one can take that away from you. Ireti, beautiful. Again, what does this movie demonstrate? It also demonstrates that, before I let go, it also demonstrates how every sector, again, this is Nigeria that we're talking about, right? I'm not going to talk about stories from other countries, yeah? But it's so obvious how the same law enforcement who are quick to rain down on your parole when, shit hits the roof, are the same people, right, who will cover up for you, are the same people who will sell out for you, are the same people who will do all those things. And if you notice, every time, Inspector Ogunlesi moved and she pushed and pushed, they kept on. I knew that Onome was not clean. I said, how can they be following this, our sister, up and down like this? I knew, but it just shows us exactly what is going on. The police, every one of them, they're in as long, the thing is, be doing your thing, me, I'll be collecting my pay. But if Kasala busts, I will throw you under the bus. And that was exactly what happened, So it's a very clear indicator, right? This movie is a very clear indicator of what we actually live in Nigeria. Again, one of the things I'm going to sign off with is the level of research Kemi Adetiba puts in this movie. She did not miss the mark. If you know, you know. And I sign out. If you have not watched To Kill a Monkey, go do that. Bye.